Yo, what's going on, everyone? XRP is creating some serious moves here on the shorter time frames that could finally be giving us the clues on how to reach all-time highs. We got a 40% move to the upside from the lows. But is a shorter time frame pullback something to be scared about? I personally don't think so. Now, we do need to go through a series of obstacles, however, and I'm going to explain the exact pathway we need to create in order to achieve that new all-time high using the Elliott Wave Theory. Now, you may be thinking that me calling for an all-time high is too ambitious, especially with so much uncertainty happening, but I absolutely don't think so. The Elliott Wave Theory provides us a set of probabilities, and it's my job to make sure that I narrow them down as best as I can. Now, the reason why I think it's not too ambitious is because we are able to gather data from the preceding waves. And this whole move down from January gives us 4 months of data to work with, and the move down was quite corrective in nature. Now, you may be asking, what do you mean by corrective nature? The exact pattern that we may be observing here is called a double zigzag pattern, and is denoted as a WXY. The wave W is a zigzag in ABC. X is a connector wave, which can be any corrective pattern, and then wave Y is a second zigzag as an ABC. Now, the reason why this may be bullish is because of the larger context and the positioning of this WXY. We're in a wave 2 of a larger fifth wave. That means we're still in a bullish position of the larger picture. This means that the first wave W right here was kind of the market's first initial reaction to beginning taking profits after such a large move to the upside. Kind of like, okay, that run was too much, let's cool off. And the first wave usually shows the first clear indication of a counter trend pressure, and it's usually going to be sharp in nature. But the key point here is that if it was created as an ABC, that's the main takeaway here, not as a 5-wave move. If it created a 5-wave move to the downside, it would have changed the whole story by quite a bit. Then you have the wave X, again, the connector wave like I mentioned, and it's just a temporary resume of the prior trend but lacks the strength. And then you have the final wave Y, which is also where the market creates a second wave to the downside as an ABC. So the key takeaway here is that it wasn't impulsive as a 5-wave move for the initial move, that's usually driven by strong momentum and fear. Instead, we got a controlled, strong overlapping structure, and it was more measured, kind of like pressing the reset button on the computer. And you can kind of think of it as a reevaluation phase and cautious positioning by market participants like you and me. And if you look at the actual idealized structure, like you see here, you can see that the WXY pattern in XRP's price action is almost identical to what is shown in the wave theory. You can see it has a cleaner internal structure where each leg for waves W and waves Y tends to follow an ABC structure and is often symmetrical compared to the raw energy of what is a 5-way move to the downside as an impulse. So the presence of this wave X is just simply showing that the market is in a rush, and in conclusion, the whole WXY structure is basically a lack of conviction for a full reversal that gives us more confidence on the larger picture that we can be positioned in the wave 2 of a larger fifth wave. So if we pull up the larger macro structure that I've been discussing for the past million years, you can see we've been trying to figure out how this wave 1-2 was going to be created. And lo and behold, we have 4 months of data. And the best way I can see it right now is a WXY. We could be working for a wave 3, 4, and 5 to conclude this bull market. That should give us targets of around $20 to $30 to $40 depending on how far this wave 3 extends and how far this wave 5 extends. Now, another thing that I've been closely or been tracking is for the XRP USD charts, and something that has been leading the XRP USD charts rather, is that I've been closely monitoring the Korean spot markets. If you don't recall, the Korean spot markets is what I like to believe as the main driver of XRP's price action and leads the price action, and it's usually because it's the first to show an extreme top or an extreme bottom. And right now, XRP has achieved an extreme bottom that could also be giving us signals that a bottom may be in. Now, we're creating a pretty synchronized move right now with both charts on the shorter time frames that seems to be creating distribution for what could be an expanded flat structure for a micro degree wave 1-2 on this Korean 1 chart. That means that this bottom may be established, and if XRP versus the USD chart is also showing that same idea, it could be meaning that we're finally ready to work for the upside, just like we're seeing for the Korean 1 chart. So if we go back to the XRP USD chart, you can see we're now synchronized with what I believe is going to be that wave 2 bottom, and we have completed that WXY. So based on this WXY pattern, you're looking at a market that's not panicking, not trending hard enough, but digesting, cooling off rather, and doing it with a sense of structure and balance, not some kind of chaotic move to the downside. If you're analyzing a WXY in real time, this controlled correction often means that the momentum strategies won't work well, and range strategies or kind of mean reversion setups perform far better. So this is why I continue to advocate that if you know you're in a WXY controlled pullback, a DCA strategy may be best applicable in this current situation. And right now, I do believe that smart money has already positioned themselves and they're not really ready to sell off this current asset. So I think that we are ready to work for higher levels just due to the fact that we are in a series of selective narratives within this current market cycle. And I think that's the reason why XRP is holding up so well against its other counterparts like Ethereum and Solana. And I think a lot of people have lost faith in that, whereas XRP holders are actually stronger than ever, right? The community is stronger than ever. The fundamentals are stronger than ever. The partnerships are stronger than ever. And right now, especially with the Korean won chart, the Korean markets, as you know, 20% of the market capitalization comes out of South Korea. That can also be giving us a clear picture that this WXY structure may also be complete. So this is how I'm currently seeing the price action on the shorter and larger time frames, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot of ways of actually looking at this. Like I said, this WXY could be leading us into that first structure of an ABC flat structure. That's going to be a little bit more advanced later on. If that does happen, I'll be making sure to do a real-time analysis on that as we do create a larger range here for this wave 2. But it would be best to finish off the cycle with some kind of vertical parabolic move to the upside to ensue more FOMO at these levels. I think investors are still kind of sitting on the sidelines. But if we go into the shorter time frames once again, we can see that we may be creating some kind of flat structure. And this is also very bullish if you're talking about the micro time frames. This is another type of corrective pattern where you're creating a series of threes, but with more equilibrium. And that in itself can be a sign of accumulation and distribution after such a large correction has happened. This wave 1-2 of this degree, you can see that this may be an A, B, C, or some kind of running flat that could be also complete. As you can see here, a running flat is where it doesn't create another price extreme below this previous low. We can be creating a wave 2 here and a wave 2 here, meeting those major Fibonacci levels. And I think that the overall trend is going to be to the upside, eventually going back into all-time highs, get another pullback for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a wave 3. That should be giving us targets beyond possibly $10 within the next few months. So hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. That is my overview, and hopefully you have a little bit of a better understanding of how these WXY patterns can be more applicable to the larger context of things. These WXY patterns are controlled pullbacks, and I think that's the key point that we want to be taking here. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Bye-bye.